Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Melissa and I'm a registered nurse. So in today's lecture video, it will be a maternity lecture on Naegele's rule. So by the end of this lecture video, you should be able to understand exactly what Naegele's rule is, how to apply it in a maternity setting, and how to use it to estimate a woman's estimated delivery date or an estimated due date. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So first, just a general overview of what Naegele's rule is. Naegele's rule is a formula that we use in nursing to estimate the expected due date, or EDD, of a woman's pregnancy based off of the first day of her last menstrual period. Now, although Naegele's rule is a common method for estimating a due date, it's not perfectly accurate and it does have limitations. I've listed some on the slide that's shown right now. So, for one thing, Naegele's rule does not take leap years into account. We know leap years happen once every 4 years. Naegele's rule is also based on the assumption that a woman will have an average length pregnancy. So, a standard pregnancy that goes to full term is going to be 280 days or 40 weeks. As we know, babies can be born prematurely. Women do not always hit that 40-week mark. And then conversely, women can also have a pregnancy that extends beyond that 40 weeks. And so Naegele's rule doesn't account for those things. And then lastly, Naegele's rule does not account for human error. So many women do have irregular periods. Not all women track their periods to know exactly when the first day of their last menstrual period was. So we may not always get an accurate date for the first day of a woman's last menstrual period. So now when it comes to the actual formula of Naegele's rule, what we do is that we take the first day of a woman's last menstrual period, we subtract that by 3 months, we add 7 days, and then at the very end, if needed, we add a year. So basically, if a woman's first day of her last menstrual period is January, February, or March, then her expected due date or her expected delivery date will be within that same year. It'll happen later that year. However, if a woman's menstrual period, the first day of her last menstrual period, happens anytime between April through December, then we're going to go ahead and add an additional year because she will be delivering her baby in the following year. So I know that may sound tricky, but we're going to do some practice problems together and hopefully you guys can get the hang of it. Okay, so now we will do this first example problem together. What we have listed on the slide for the first day of the last menstrual period is January 20th, 2025. So following the formula of Naegele's rule, the first thing that we're going to do with this date is that we are going to subtract 3 months to it. And so if we go back 3 months, we get a date of October 20th, 2024. Now, how we got here is we have January 20th, 2025. We go back 1 month to December. That puts us into December of the following year. 2 months would be November, and then going back 3 months would give us October. So that's how we got the October 20th, 2024. So now that we're back 3 months, the next step in the formula is to add 7 days to that. So that gives us a date of October 27th, 2024. And then the final step is going to be to add a year to this date, which gives us October 27th, 2025. And again, the reason why we added a year to this date is because if a woman's last menstrual period occurred in January of 2025, she can't go back in time and deliver. The year of the delivery is going to also be in 2025. So that's how we ended up in the year 2025. So if the first day of a woman's last menstrual period is January 20th, 2025, then her expected due date using the formula of Naegele's rule will be October 27th, 2025. And I apologize if it's confusing. The more practice problems that you do with Naegele's rule, the more comfortable you will get doing this formula. It does seem tricky at first, but like I said, just keep practicing it and it'll start to make more and more sense. So I do have another practice problem. I encourage you to actually pause the video here, try to solve it on your own, and then see if you got it correctly. If you want, we can do it together though. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the date that we're given as the first date of the last menstrual period is June 12th, 2025. So, following the formula of Naegele's rule, the first thing that we're going to do to this is subtract 3 months from this date. So, starting in June 2025, we go back 1 month to May 2025. We go back 2 months, and that'll give us April 2025. And then if we go back 3 months, that gives us March of 2025. So that takes us back to March 12th of 2025. So now the next step in the formula is going to be to add 7 days to this date. So 7 days from March 12th will give us March 19th, and we're still in the year 2025. Now, the final step to that would be to add a year. So once we add a year, that gives us a date of March 19, 2026. So if the first day of a woman's last menstrual period is June 12th, 2025, then her expected due date using Naegele's rule is going to be March 19th, 2026. Now we have another practice problem. Again, I encourage you to pause the video here. Try to solve it on your own. If you get it wrong, that's okay. You're still learning. But I do want you to try to attempt this one on your own before you continue playing the video and we solve it together. Okay, so getting into this problem, we're giving a last menstrual period date of April 1st, 2025. So again, following the formula that we've been using for Naegele's rule, we are going to subtract 3 months from this date. So starting in April 2025, to go back 1 month is March 2025, 2 months is February 2025, and then going back 3 months will give us a date of January 1st, 2025. So the next step following the formula is that we're going to add 7 days to this date. So that gives us a date of January 8th, 2025. So the final step will be to add a year to this, because even though the date that we have right now is January 8th, you have to go back and remember when the first day of her last menstrual period was. That was back in April 1st, 2025. So if a woman's last menstrual period occurred between April through December, that means she is going to be delivering in the following year. So we're going to go ahead and add a year to the date of January 8th, 2025 to give an estimated due date of January 8th, 2026. So if a woman's last menstrual period, the first day of her last menstrual period happens April 1st of 2025, then her expected due date is going to be January 8th of 2026. So for the final practice problem, I thought that this would be fun. I recently had a baby and I thought it would be cute to calculate the estimated due date for me based on the first day of my last menstrual period. Again, I encourage you to pause the video here, try to solve it on your own before we solve it together and you see the answer. So the first day of my last menstrual period was September 3rd, 2024. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to subtract 3 months. So that gives us a date of June 3rd, 2024. Next, we're going to add 7 days to the date of June 3rd. That gives us a date of June 10th, 2024. And then the final step will be to add a year to this date. And we have an answer of June 10th, 2025. Now, September 3rd was actually the first day of my last menstrual period, but June 10th is not the day that I delivered, but it was pretty close. So, although we still use Naegele's rule in nursing school and in the profession, ultrasound technology is now used to estimate the estimated delivery date or the estimated due date of a woman who is pregnant, and that is determined to be more accurate. So when I went for my first ultrasound appointment, I did get a different estimated due date than this June 10th, but I will say Naegele's rules calculation, the June 10th is actually closer to the date that I actually did deliver. So even though some people might say that this method is outdated, this method could actually sometimes be more accurate than the ultrasound technology. So I encourage you to use Naegele's rule, see which one ends up being more accurate if you're pregnant or if you know someone who's pregnant, just for fun. That is it for this video. Hopefully you learned something about Naegele's rule. I encourage you, even if you got all of these questions or these sample problems correct, if you're in nursing school, I do encourage you to find more sample problems on the internet. The more that you do practice problems for Naegele's rule, the more comfortable that you will get with it, and the more likely you are to get these answers or these questions correctly on your exams. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.